It all started in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Chicago, where the streets were lined with aged brick houses, and the faint hum of distant traffic never seemed to die. Locals would often walk past one particular house on Hawthorne Street and whisper about it in hushed tones. No one ever stayed there for more than a night, they said. Some claimed the walls themselves seemed to breathe. Others swore they heard faint crying echoing from the empty rooms. The story begins with a young couple, Anna and Mark, who had just moved to Chicago. Eager to rent a cheap old property, they came across the Hawthorne house. Despite the warnings from neighbors, the rent was too good to ignore. Old houses have character, Mark joked, unaware of the darkness they were walking into. The first night was eerily quiet. The floorboards creaked under their footsteps, but that was expected in a house this old. Yet, as the clock struck midnight, Anna swore she felt someone, or something, watching them from the corners of the living room. A sudden chill ran down her spine, but when she glanced at Mark, he was fast asleep, oblivious. By 2 a.m., strange noises had begun. It started as soft, almost imperceptible whispers, then grew into low, mournful wails. Anna tried to shake it off, telling herself the wind was just passing through the cracked windows. But when she got up to check, the hallway was impossibly long, stretching further than it should have. And at the far end, she thought she saw a shadowy figure, tall, thin, and unmoving, staring directly at her. Mark woke up, groggy and confused, when Anna screamed. He didn't see anything at first, just the empty hallway. But then the temperature dropped so suddenly that his breath turned visible. The lights flickered violently, and the whispers became a chorus of disjointed voices calling their names. It felt alive, as if the house itself was aware they were inside. By sunrise, the couple was found outside the house by a neighbor, standing silently on the lawn, pale and shaking, unable to speak. They never returned inside, and soon after, the house was once again abandoned, waiting for the next unsuspecting tenant, brave or foolish, enough to spend a night there. Many tried to investigate, including paranormal experts, but none could explain why no one ever survived the night. Some spoke of an old curse, dating back to when the house was first built. Others whispered of a dark presence that fed on fear. The Hawthorne house remained a mystery, a monument to terror, sitting silently as if daring anyone to enter. Weeks later, a group of college students, eager to test their courage, decided to spend a night inside the infamous Hawthorne house. They laughed off the warnings from locals, calling it nothing more than an overhyped legend. But as they stepped through the heavy front door, the air felt unnaturally thick, as if the house were holding its breath. The inside smelled of damp wood and something else, something metallic, almost like blood. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a scream. The group tried to set up cameras and recorders, hoping to catch any haunted activity for their social media. They joked, they laughed, but beneath their bravado, a tension began to settle. By midnight, the first oddities appeared. Doors they had closed earlier were now wide open. Shadows moved in ways that defied physics, stretching along the walls, darting across ceilings. One of the students, Lisa, heard faint sobbing coming from the basement. She swore she saw a young girl standing at the bottom of the stairs, her face pale and hollow-eyed. But when she blinked, the stairs were empty. The house seemed to respond to their fear. Lights flickered, then went out entirely, plunging the rooms into darkness. Phones lost signal, cameras malfunctioned, and whispers grew louder, circling them, speaking in voices that sounded almost human, but carried a sinister edge. One by one, they felt something brush against their skin, cold, wet, and impossibly fast. Then came the hallucinations. Shadows turned into figures, faces twisted in silent screams. The students began to see visions of previous tenants, their eyes wide with terror, their mouths moving silently as if begging for help. The walls seemed to pulse, as if alive, breathing in rhythm with their pounding hearts. Panic set in. They tried to leave, but the front door wouldn't budge. Windows that had been boarded shut seemed intact, yet every attempt to break them failed. The house wasn't just haunted, it was a trap. One of the students, Jason, screamed as he was yanked backward by a force no one could see. leaving claw marks on the floorboards. By 3 a.m., the group was shattered, their courage evaporated. Some whispered prayers, others cried, but no matter what they did, the house pressed closer, suffocating them with unseen hands. And then at the stroke of 4 a.m., the laughter began. A low, guttural sound echoing from the walls, the ceilings, even beneath the floor. The house seemed to enjoy their fear, feeding off every heartbeat, every gasp, every tear. By dawn, the neighbors found the house empty. The students were gone. Nothing remained except overturned furniture, broken cameras, and the faint, lingering sound of laughter that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Curiosity about the Hawthorne house grew, and soon a historian named Evelyn decided to uncover its past. She spent weeks digging through old city records and local archives, piecing together a story that made even her skin crawl. The house had been built in the late 1800s by a man named Victor Hawthorne, a reclusive figure rumored to be obsessed with dark rituals. Locals whispered that he had conducted strange ceremonies in the house, summoning forces no one could understand. Evelyn discovered newspaper clippings of previous tenants who had vanished mysteriously. One family, the Millers, had reportedly moved in during the 1920s. Within hours, neighbors heard screaming, and when authorities arrived, the house was empty. No signs of struggle, no clues, just the furniture neatly arranged as if the family had vanished mid-meal. Another tenant, a traveling salesman in 1953, had checked in for a single night. By morning, he was gone, leaving only a note scribbled in panic. It watches. It waits, don't stay. The deeper Evelyn dug, the more the pattern became clear. Anyone who stayed beyond midnight was consumed by the house. It wasn't just haunted, it was alive, sentient, and malevolent. Some old legends suggested that Victor Hawthorne had trapped a spirit within the walls, one that demanded fear and suffering. Others claimed he had sacrificed something unspeakable during the house's construction, cursing it forever. Determined to document everything, Evelyn arranged to spend a night in the house herself, armed with cameras, recording equipment, and a sense of cautious resolve. As she stepped inside, the familiar chill gripped her. The air was thick with the metallic scent of decay and something else, something ancient. She set up her cameras, her heart thudding in her chest, and began to narrate her findings aloud, hoping to leave a record in case the house claimed her as well. Hours passed, and the house seemed almost calm at first, as if testing her. Then, faint scratching sounds began to echo from the walls. Whispers, barely audible, started murmuring her name. Shadows stretched unnaturally, slithering along the walls. Evelyn's recorder picked up voices she couldn't understand, chanting in a language lost to time. When she tried to leave, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Panic set in, but Evelyn forced herself to stay calm. That's when she saw it. A figure standing in the corner of the room, completely still, but unmistakably there. Its eyes glowed faintly, and the air around it seemed to pulse. The house exhaled, and Evelyn realized with terror that it was aware of her, watching, studying, waiting for her fear to grow. Evelyn's breath came in shallow gasps as the figure in the corner seemed to shift slightly, just enough to remind her that it was alive. She raised her camera, trying to capture any proof, but the lens fogged instantly, as if the house itself rejected being recorded. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into an unintelligible chorus that pressed against her skull. Suddenly, the walls began to bleed. Not blood, but a thick, dark liquid that ran in slow rivulets, dripping onto the floorboards with a sound that echoed like soft cries. Evelyn stumbled backward, slipping slightly on the slick surface. The air grew heavier, harder to breathe, as though the house had grown aware of her panic and was feeding on it. From the ceiling came a scratching sound, slow at first, then frantic, like claws raking across old wood. Evelyn's flashlight flickered violently. In the brief moments of darkness, she glimpsed shapes moving across the walls, humanoid forms twisted in unnatural angles, their faces frozen in silent screams. Her heart raced. She realized she was not just witnessing the house's horrors. She was part of them now. A cold hand, impossibly solid, touched her shoulder. Evelyn spun around, but no one was there. The air vibrated with low, guttural laughter. She backed into a corner, recording equipment in hand, trembling, realizing that the house wasn't just haunted. It was hunting her, testing her limits, waiting to claim her as it had countless others. Then came the voices, clear this time, whispering in her ears, closer than they should have been, yet no one visible. "Stay, forever. Join us," they hissed. Panic overwhelmed her. She ran through the hallways, each room twisting unnaturally, hallways lengthening and shrinking, doors appearing where none had existed before. The house was a labyrinth, and it was alive. Evelyn tried to scream, but her voice was swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. The figure from the corner appeared again, now closer, its glowing eyes locked on hers. She stumbled over furniture that seemed to move on its own, scraping her palms and knees until she collapsed against the front door. Her fingers scrabbled at the handle, it wouldn't budge. The whispering voices crescendoed into a deafening roar, and she felt herself being pulled backward toward the depths of the house. The last thing she remembered before darkness overtook her was the laughter. The same sinister, guttural laughter she had read about in the old reports. It echoed through the walls, claiming her sanity, claiming her presence, as it had so many before her. By morning, neighbors reported nothing unusual from the street. The house sat silently on Hawthorne Street, untouched, waiting. Inside, no sign of Evelyn remained, only her recording equipment still running, the last minutes capturing screams that would chill anyone who listened. As years passed, the Hawthorne house continued to claim the curious, the brave, and the foolish. Rumors spread faster than ever, fueled by Evelyn's recordings, which somehow survived, though no one dared listen to them in full. People who tried to understand the house reported nightmares, strange accidents, even disappearances, as if merely speaking its name invited its attention. Local legend grew around the origins of its curse. Victor Hawthorne, it was said, had bound a spirit to the house during its construction, a creature that thrived on fear and trapped the souls of those who dared to enter. Some old diaries uncovered in the city archives hinted at the ritual: a black candle, a whispered incantation, and the life essence of a living being sacrificed to awaken the house itself. From that moment on, the structure became more than wood and brick. It became a living predator. The house's influence extended beyond its walls. Neighbors reported hearing faint footsteps, whispers, or seeing fleeting shadows through the windows even when no one lived there. Animals refused to enter its yard, and children crossing nearby streets would scream without reason, pointing at its darkened windows. One night, a man named Peter, a paranormal investigator from Chicago, decided to uncover the truth once and for all. Armed with cameras, EMF detectors, and a journal of previous incidents, he stepped inside. The air immediately pressed down on him, heavy and suffocating. Every step echoed as if the house itself was mocking him. Hours passed uneventfully, lulling Peter into a false sense of control. Then, in the living room, he noticed a mirror that shouldn't have been there. His reflection stared back, but it wasn't entirely him. Shadows moved behind him, forming faces of the house's previous victims: Anna and Mark, the students, even Evelyn, trapped in silent, eternal terror. Peter tried to leave, but the house had learned from every intruder before him. The doors twisted, hallways stretched impossibly, and whispers filled every corner. He recorded everything, narrating frantically into his camera, hoping someone would find it. Yet as midnight approached, the house reacted violently. Lights exploded, floors buckled, and a cold, invisible hand slammed him to the ground. When neighbors later entered the house, drawn by his frantic messages sent from his phone, they found only shattered equipment and a single video still running. Peter's screams were etched into it, a chilling testament to the house's hunger. Beyond the threshold, the house stood silent, untouched, waiting for the next visitor foolish enough to spend a night there. To this day, the Hawthorne house remains a place of terror in Chicago. No one has survived beyond one night. Some say it feeds on fear, some say it collects souls, but all agree on one truth: the house is alive, and it will never let go. Those who enter its walls are never seen again, And sometimes late at night, if you walk past Hawthorne Street, you can hear the soft, almost human whispers carried by the wind, calling, tempting, waiting. Over the decades, countless people had tried to unravel the secret of the Hawthorne house, hoping to break its curse. Some brought priests, others brought occult experts. Some even attempted elaborate rituals, hoping to banish the malevolent force within. All failed. The house remained impervious, as if mocking the very idea that it could be defeated. One of the more detailed accounts came from a man named Thomas, a descendant of Victor Hawthorne. He had studied his ancestors' diaries and believed he could undo the curse. On a cold October night, he entered the house armed with knowledge of the rituals Victor had once performed. Candles lined the walls, symbols were etched into the floors, and every precaution was taken to ensure no force would touch him. For hours, the house seemed to tolerate him. The whispers were faint, the shadows distant. Then, as plummeted, the candles flickered violently, and the house seemed to shift around him. The floorboards groaned as though warning him to leave, but Thomas pressed on, chanting the incantations from the old diaries. Suddenly, the walls bled, the shadows became figures, and the whispers turned into screams. The house wasn't going to let its prisoner go. Every ounce of fear Thomas had managed to suppress erupted, and the figures of past victims began to appear, their eyes pleading, their mouths opening in silent agony. The house pulsed with power, a living, breathing entity feeding on every moment of terror. Thomas's final words were captured by his recorder. It's alive. It doesn't want to let go. The house. It never forgets. After that, silence. The house fell still, the candles extinguished, the shadows retreating as if they had never existed. The police later found no trace of Thomas, only the ritual tools left abandoned in the center of the living room. Locals learned a harsh truth. No matter who enters, no matter how much knowledge or preparation they bring, the house remains undefeated. It is patient, eternal, and endlessly hungry. Some say it grows stronger with each attempt to confront it, learning from fear, feeding from the despair of the living. Even today, the Hawthorne house stands silently on its street in Chicago. Its windows are dark, its doors seemingly locked from within. But those who pass by at night swear they feel it watching. A cold wind brushes their skin. Faint whispers call their names. And if you ever dared to step inside, well, no one survives for more than one night. The legend endures, and perhaps that is its greatest power. The Hawthorne house doesn't just exist in the city. It exists in every fearful thought, every dare, every curiosity that tempts the living to step inside. It waits, it watches, and it will never let go. The story of the Hawthorne house had spread far beyond Chicago. Paranormal enthusiasts, thrill seekers, and skeptics all tried to confront it, each convinced they would uncover the truth. Yet every single attempt ended in disappearance, madness, or both. The house's legend became so notorious that even law enforcement refused to enter without extreme caution. One stormy night, a journalist named Rachel decided to document the house for a feature story. Armed with cameras, lights, and a deep skepticism, she arrived determined to prove the entire tale was nothing more than superstition. She filmed the exterior, interviewed neighbors, and even read aloud the chilling accounts of past victims. Yet as she stepped inside, the air changed instantly. The warmth of the outside world vanished. A cold, heavy silence pressed against her chest, and the familiar metallic scent filled her nose. Rachel wandered cautiously through the house, narrating her impressions. Floorboards creaked under her feet, shadows stretched along the walls, and whispers, barely audible at first, seemed to circle her in the hallways. She laughed nervously at herself, calling the phenomena tricks of her mind. But then came the mirrors. Every reflective surface showed more than her own face. Behind her, she glimpsed the silhouettes of previous victims, their eyes hollow, their mouths silently screaming. The house began to shift. Hallways twisted impossibly, doors appeared and disappeared, and the walls seemed to breathe. Rachel's flashlight flickered, revealing glimpses of figures standing just out of reach. Panic surged, but she forced herself to continue filming. Every camera, Every recording device captured something the naked eye could not fully comprehend. Faces pressed against the walls, hands reaching from floors, shadows moving independently of light. And then the house spoke. Not in whispers, not in screams, but in a voice that echoed directly into her mind. "You came willingly, now you stay forever." Rachel turned to run, but the front door was gone. Windows vanished. The house had closed itself around her. Her last footage, later recovered, shows her backing into a corner, eyes wide in terror as the shadows converge. Her scream is cut abruptly, leaving only the faint sound of laughter echoing through the rooms. To this day, the Hawthorne house remains, untouched and forbidden. No law, no ritual, no investigation has ever succeeded in unlocking its secrets. Its curse endures, a monument to horror in the heart of Chicago. People say that if you walk past Hawthorne Street at night, you can feel its presence. A cold, patient hunger that watches, waits, and feeds on the curiosity of anyone daring enough to approach. The truth is simple yet terrifying. The house does not forgive. It does not forget, and it will never let go. Some nights when the wind is right, if you stand close enough, you might hear the faintest whisper from inside, a chilling invitation. Come in, stay forever.